separate the real from the fake. See, we got to get back to love. If we get back to love, then that's when we're going to get back to us.
Seems like it's never enough. And what do you say when you're...
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of People Empowerment, where we would strive to change the conditions in our city. Now we will get back to the second half of our interview with the Democratic candidate for mayor, Bernie Tolbert. So, glad to be back, Bernie. We can get started. And now I'd like to go right into the meat and potatoes of the issue so we can put everything on the table so the citizens can understand where you're coming from, what you're about, and how a vision of what it's going to be like with Bernie Tolbert as mayor of the city of Buffalo. So I'll start, I want to start with racial profiling, but hold on for a minute. I want to talk about this fact quickly, why it's on my mind. I believe it's been in the paper that Mayor Brown has $1.3 million in his campaign funds. Now, I don't know, I'm not sure how much money you have in your campaign funds, but they call the contest the Battle of David and Goliath. And I suppose you know who you are in that story.
Let me guess. I'm not Goliath.
You are not Goliath. And so people talk about that it's an issue of money, and the money brings the power, and the money will win the election. But I'll tell you what else that I've been hearing in the streets and on my website, and since I'm not afraid to say anything and put it out there, I'm going to put it out there. Whether you know it or not, I'm going to tell you right now. People say you're going to win. People say that Bernie Tolbert is going to be the next mayor of Buffalo. People say that you're going to win. Now, just as, and it's amazing, just as close, as relevant as last night, I was on Grider and Delavan, and I seen a couple people with Mayor Brown shirts on, so I assumed that they're canvassing for the mayor. And they came over and we started talking. And you know what these people told me? And I ain't gonna be afraid, I'm gonna say it. They said, yeah, we working for him. Yeah, we working for that $12.50 an hour. Yeah, we working for it, but guess what? We ain't voting for him. I said, huh? You're campaigning for him, but you ain't voting for him? They said, man, money is money. I got to pay my bills. I appreciate the job and opportunity, but he really hasn't done enough for me. So that's the sentiment around and around and around. And then other people even say, this is deep. They even say, listen, on the front, man, I ain't losing my position. I'm down with Brown. I'm down with Brown. I'm with him, you know. But then behind the lines, they say, I ain't voting for that dude. I ain't voting for him. All kind of stuff. So it's very interesting, the diversity in the comments that are coming from people, and they saying on the outside they're saying one thing, and on the inside they're saying another. So how do you take that when I tell you that people say that you're going to win, that you can do it if you push on? How do you feel?
Well, it's gratifying to hear those kinds of comments, certainly, and it does match up with some of the things that I've been hearing on the street as we've walked around town in the different councilmanic districts. The comments I've gotten from people, they've reaffirmed the decision I made to run. I hear people saying all the time that we need a choice, we need a change, it's time for a change, and so those are the kinds of sentiments that help to motivate me, and I'm gratified to hear what you said that people are saying.
Yeah, they shared. I can show you some of the emails on my site, you know, physically where they're saying it. I'm not just talking, and it's really something for me to hear because, you know, I mean, because it's like, almost everywhere I go, people are talking about you. People are talking about you. I'm like, man, that's like I said, we were supposed to get together. You were supposed to be on the show weeks ago. And I'm thinking I better hurry up and get this guy on the show and see what he got to talk about. You know what I mean? Before he really actually pulls this off. And I didn't get to be a part of it and get any of it. You know what I mean? And so, you know, and that's interesting. And I like the idea of change. And I like the idea of competition, because then competition, I mean, let's keep it real. It puts the mayor to task to talk about what he's going to do for the people, to put up a shut up. And so I like that. And so I like to say what I'm saying, you know, and I know that he's going to watch this show, and I know that he's going to hear this. And so it's very important to let you know, Mr. Mayor, that, you know, people want to know what are the changes that you're going to do for the people. So now with that being said, and you know what the people are saying, now you know, because I told you. Now I would ask you this. I would like to talk about, you're FBI, a former FBI agent. That's the police, bottom line. That's the police.
Law enforcement, yep.
Law enforcement. Now, you know what's going on with racial profiling in the city. You know what's going on with stop and frisk. And I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but the police have become somewhat abusive, no more than somewhat abusive in our neighborhood when dealing with our kids. There's no sensitivity. And so people have said to me that he's the police too, and that when he comes in, he's going to create a police state in Buffalo. So I want you to tell people about that, please.
Well, we said earlier in the last segment that I'm a social worker by education and training. And to me that says I have an understanding of people. I have a sensitivity to the needs of people, and I empathize with what people feel. And a police state, never, just wouldn't happen under me. I don't believe in that. I believe that our police, by and large, I think they do a good job. I think we've got good policemen. With every situation, you'll have a one or two bad apples that gives a bad name for everyone. But I think it's important for us to make sure that our policemen have the right kind of training, that they understand some of the needs. They understand the cultural differences in people, and the need for them to embrace people and develop relationships where people can have trust in them, so that'll also help them in their responsibility as police officers. If people tell you information, people are telling you things, it's going to help you do a better job. So I think that's where we go, but certainly not create a police state. And in terms of racial profiling, there's no place for racial profiling. It runs contrary to the rights of citizens. So
you wouldn't tolerate that?
I'm not someone who's in favor of racial profiling. I think you have to.
May I not to cut you off, but because we only got so much time. Well, the fact that the Buffalo police have endorsed you, okay? One gentleman said that. Well, first he made this comment. Oh well, he said that. That now the police are really going to be able to do us in because of his affiliation. Now, you basically already answered the question, but I just wanted to add that in. And I wanted to tell you something that one person wrote in that Mark Garrigo said the other day on CNN about the Trayvon Martin thing and about racial profiling. And what Mark Garrigo said was that his son was recently stopped by the police. And when his son told the officer who he was, the officer said, "Call your father and let me talk to him." He called Mark Garrigo, talked to him, and he let the kid go. Now, how many police officers in Buffalo are going to call the kid's parents on the east side and talk to him for a minute and let him go?
Well, I can't, I don't know that, but I think if our police officers are doing a good job, when it's appropriate, absolutely, you'll call a parent, but at the end of the day, racial profiling is not, you stop people based on articulable facts. If you have information that says, a person committed a crime and this is what they looked like, they were 6 feet tall, they had on a red shirt and black pants, and you see somebody 6 feet tall, red shirt, black pants in the area, that's reasonable. Then you have there's some reasonableness about stopping and talking to that person.
Now see what you just said is important. You said stop and talk. But what I've seen is stop, get slammed up against the car, get arms twisted, and then talk. As a matter of fact, in front of True Bethel Church last week, police officers were out there beating the hell out of this kid. And another kid came up with a telephone and started filming it. They smacked the phone out of his hand, threw it over the fence, and slapped him around a couple times until he got out of there. And so these are the issues that I would hope that you would be able to confront and deal with if you were to attain the position of mayor. Is that something that you would be willing to address, and with the city, also the citizens of the city?
Absolutely. It's a two-way street. Police have to respect citizens and citizens' rights, but citizens have to respect the police and the job they have to. That's a difficult job to do.
True.
I always said, when I was an FBI agent, I always said I wouldn't want to be a police officer because every day you confront situations that are just very difficult to deal with. So it's a two-way street. I want our police officers to be respectful, treat people with dignity, but I also want our citizens to understand that the police have a job to do, and let's do what we can to help them do their job and do it the right way.
Okay, I agree. I accept that, and it makes total sense. Have you ever been racially profiled?
Yes.
Tell me about it quickly.
Oh, I don't know if we have time for it, but
Well,
let me tell you a very quick situation that happened to me when I was in college here in Buffalo. I was looking for an apartment, called up the person who I saw an ad listed, called up the person, talked to them about it. They said, okay, here's the address. You go there, and the person, whoever lives upstairs, they'll show you. When I arrived, rang the doorbell, lady came down. I said, I'm here to see the apartment. And she said, oh, no one told me you were coming. And so she showed me the apartment, and I liked it, and I wanted it. But at the time, the telephone company was on strike. And that was before the days of cell phones. We didn't have cell phones, so you had to go to a payphone. Well, the phone company was on strike, so none of the payphones were working. I must have went to 3 or 4 different payphones real quick, trying to call this lady and say, I want to take the apartment. Didn't do it. Ended up going back to a friend's home. Finally, called. Was able to call from home phone where they were working. And when I called, said, "Well, sorry, but the apartment is gone. Someone's taken it." And I knew what was going on. So I had a friend, a young lady, call same number and say, "I want to look at the apartment." And got the same. Oh, here's where it is. You go there and they'll show you the apartment. So that's happened to me, and I've been denied service years ago. I remember sitting.
So you know what it's like.
I know exactly
what it feels like.
And in many instances, I've been stopped by the police.
And so you have compassion for the issues. Have you ever been stopped by the police as the FBI agent?
Oh, well, sure, I have been stopped, but but they're nothing untoward.
Do you believe that if you become mayor, that you can increase relations between blacks and whites? Do you think you can bring us closer together in a kumbaya type moment?
Well,
you got to work with everybody.
Look, you have to, and it's vitally important for us to be able to do that. So can I do it? I think I can. Will I do it? I will spend every moment working to do just that.
Okay, that's great. If you would, can you tell the people out here, the audience, 2 promises that you could make, just 2 promises that you could make them, that you will work on and work toward and effectuate change in Buffalo when you become the mayor? Change something that's going on now. Tell us 2 things that you can change as mayor.
Well, one thing I want to change.
That you promise to work on.
I absolutely promise is that you will not see me hiding in City Hall. You will have access to me as the mayor. I don't think that the mayor should be in City Hall where people who you serve can't get to you. So I will have access to the citizens. They will be able to come to City Hall. They'll be able to reach me. I'm not guaranteeing, I'm not saying you can come in any day and just walk in my office and talk to me, because that wouldn't work. But you won't have to go through a system where you pass a note to a police officer who passes it on to somebody else, and we decide whether we're going to call you back. You'll have access to the office, office.
You mean you'll actually be able to come into the office and talk to a secretary like when Masiello was in office?
You'll be able to do that. I understand there's a need for security, but we can have security without sending the wrong message to people. So that's one thing that I promise you.
Well, I got to be honest. I had a personal conversation with the mayor, and he did say, and I talked to him and let him know that he was the most inaccessible mayor that we've ever had. And he explained to me about City Hall and about something that was going down at the time. There were threats against him, being the first black mayor and with everything. So he explained that was part of him putting the officer there because he wanted to stop any situation before it reached there. And so I accepted what he said. I received it. But at the same time, I couldn't agree with it because it still creates an atmosphere of inaccessibility.
Look, in my career as a law enforcement security at Coca-Cola and for the National Basketball, I understand the need for security. I've had to protect very high-priced NBA players, protect them from an adoring public who maybe didn't want to hurt them, but just the masses of people who would be around them, put the players in a potentially dangerous situation. So I understand the need for security, and we can secure the mayor's office without sending that message that I'm inaccessible, and that's what I'm talking about. And I agree, if there's an articulable threat, if you've got information that indicates that there's a threat, then you do what you have to do. And that's the way it should be. But I just don't think we should send the message that this is a fortress that you can't get into, that you can't come to. You have to be granted an audience.
Okay, in presidential races, congressional races, they have primaries, and they actually have debates between the Democratic candidates. Is there any debates planned between you and the mayor between now and the primary?
There are some debates planned. In fact, my understanding will be Byron, myself, and Sergio Rodriguez, the three candidates, the Republican candidates also.
And is there a date, a set date for the first one?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's the 14th of August.
August 14th. You hear that, audience? August 14th. Now, is that going to be a public? Of course, it's going to be a public forum for the public to be able to.
It'll be this first one. It will be in a public forum, yeah. So, and then there's a televised debate that's also going to take place later in August. That'll be broadcast live.
Okay, so we do have some debates coming up where you guys will be able to interact with each other
Yes.
and talk about what's going on. Okay, that's great. That's important for the city because they need to know, they need to see that interaction between you guys. Okay, so that's the one thing. Now, what's the other promise?
Oh, you're right.
That's one.
The other thing that I promise that I will do is everybody who works in my administration, everyone will have a job based on their qualifications, their ability. There'll be no jobs handed out because people made contributions to me. That's not a requirement in my administration. You will not have to make a contribution, a campaign contribution, in order to get a job.
Okay.
If you're the right person for the job, if you bring what we need, if you share my vision for a better Buffalo, for a better city, that's what I'll be looking for. Not whether or not you made a contribution to my campaign.
So no cronyism or patronage.
Absolutely not. Let me just along those lines mention something. I was asked a number of months ago, if you're the mayor, do you realize how many jobs you control? And I had to answer, no, I don't, because up until that point, I'd never even given it a thought that as the mayor, I control jobs. And I know you do that, but that's not what's behind my running. I'm not looking to be in a position to be the kingmaker who can hand out jobs to people. So I never thought about how many jobs I control. I don't care how many jobs I control. I care about one thing and one thing only, being able to make this city better and make the people who live here very proud.
The residents that live in the city.
The people who live in the city.
Okay, let me ask you this, and it touches on race again, but unfortunately that's what it is. Let's keep it real. $1.7 billion economic development in the city. More economic development coming. Roswell Corridor, the Corridor Project, all these things going on. People continually complain to me about the lack of seeing minorities on those jobs. And other people give me excuses why the minorities aren't on the jobs, and they vary in excuses. But I was assuming that there was a minority hiring quota connected to all of the city jobs, the city-related work, the state-related work, okay? And as I had a conversation with the mayor, he informed me that there aren't quotas, but in fact they are minority hiring goals. Would you agree with that approach to have goals? Because it seems like to me if there's goals, then they don't have to be met. But if there's quotas, then they must be met. Is that how it works?
Well, I can't speak for what the mayor says, but if you have goals, a goal should, the whole purpose to me of a goal is something I'm going to achieve. So if I had a goal, if you don't achieve it, what's the point of having it, first of all? But I also believe there should be set-asides that we say, there's this specific percentage, must be women and minorities. But more than that, if you let a contract, I want the contractor to tell me, okay, in addition to agreeing that you'll meet the goal, you'll meet the requirement for minority hiring, I want you to tell me how you're going to do it. Now, don't just say that, we'll hire that. I want you to show me your plan. How are you going to do that?
Documentary plans?
So that when it comes time to start the job, I don't want you to be able to say, well, we couldn't reach our goal. Now either we have to shut down the project or we have to let the project move ahead without the required minority participation. So I'm going to want to hold people accountable to just that.
That's good. That's really good. Now, again, as far as work going on in the city, and you're going to hold people to those goals. That's really good. Lost track.
Can I say something else
Sure.
about the $1.7 billion worth of development?
Yes, please. Quick, we only got 10 minutes left.
Okay,
I gotta tell you that.
$1.7 billion worth of development. Stand on the corner of Jefferson and Ferry, stand on the corner of Broadway and Fillmore, stand on Kensington and Bailey, and look around and tell me how much of that $1.7 billion worth of development you see. I don't have a problem with us developing the waterfront and the medical corridor, downtown core. Those are noble things to do, but we can't do it at the expense of all of our neighborhoods. We can't leave our neighborhoods behind. We must bring the rest of the city along also.
I really appreciate that you're saying that. I really appreciate you saying that. As far as the school system goes in our failing schools, there's been talk about the mayor taking over the tutelage of the school system, of the way it's been handled, because it's been mishandled. It's the way it is. The board has mishandled it. The school system has mishandled it. Whether they cared enough or not, it hasn't happened. So would you be in favor of, if you become mayor, when you become mayor, of taking over the school system, being the official lead point director of changing the system? Is that something that you agree with?
One of the things I've said all along is that I think that there needs to be more mayoral
oversight,
input, more mayoral involvement. I've said we've got 9 school board members, 6 elected from the districts and 3 at large. Why not consider legislation that would change it so that the 3 at large could be appointed by the mayor? This way you now have some input and some involvement, because the city gives $70 million a year to the Board of Education. Half of the money we collect in property taxes goes to the Board of Education. So there should be more involvement. And so that's something I certainly think makes some sense. And along with that involvement goes accountability. Now, as the mayor, you have to be accountable. Yep. You can't sit back and not say anything about education.
I like that.
Because you now have some accountability. And I'm not afraid to take on that accountability. I think our children deserve it, and it's something that I would certainly want to be a part of doing.
That makes a lot of sense. That's very important, because it's a hands-on approach to education for our kids. Do you believe that what's your understanding of the control board we have, very quickly? There's a soft control board?
My understanding is a soft control board.
But they still have somewhat control over the city, or is it back to totally to the tutelage and direction of the mayor's office?
Well, I think that it's a soft control board. That means they don't have to pass on every decision, but they still have some involvement. And I would look to work with the control board. Obviously, you want to get to a position where you don't have the oversight. In a lot of the situation, a lot of what the city's current financial situation is because of the control board. So I would work with whatever control board we have, but I'd rather not have a control board.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it makes sense too. Down here at the Apollo, as you know, we're at the Apollo Media Center. I'm the president of the Independent Producers Alliance. We've been having a lot of battles going back and forth because we feel like this place is nowhere near what it should be. It's nowhere near what they built it for. It's a $2 million facility that's sitting here almost rotting away. Equipment is broken down, places in a disarray. Understand, the city gets $2 million in franchise fees. At least this year, they got $2 million, over $2 million in franchise fees for PEG access. And to my understanding from reading the contract and going through the contract over and over again, that money is supposed to go primarily for the operation of the Apollo. And there's money above, this year they got $85,000 above and beyond that franchise fee, which is money that's supposed to be directed to capital costs of equipment and facility, yet the facility remains broken down. It happened that, I don't know what year it was, but the money that was from Time Warner to go specifically for PEG access somehow got commingled with the general fund. I don't know when it started, but as I look at documentation, older documentation, there was a time when the money was in a separate account called PEG access accounts, and there was accountability and there was audits done on that money, and the public could go and look and find out. Now that has changed. So as mayor, this is one thing I would ask you. As mayor, would you see fit to take that money designated for Apollo and take it out of the general fund and put it in a specific fund where it could use specifically what it was originally planned for, and then if there was money left, you could use it? Because this facility is for the for the public. It's about the public and improving the public, through media. So would you consider, when you become mayor, taking that money out of the general fund and putting it where it's supposed to be, so we don't always have to go back to the Common Council begging them for money that should already be there to keep this facility right, so we can have programs like this and so the public can see what's going on? Briefly.
I don't know the contract you talk about, I have no idea. I've never seen the contract, and this is kind of my a very initial understanding. But if we have a contract that says money is to be designated and spent in a certain way, then I think you honor the contract. If that's what the contract. But again, I don't know. I'd have to research the contract, research this building and all the background. But then at the end of the day, I live by one motto and one motto only: do the right thing. And if
I'm gonna get you a copy of that contract.
If the contract says this is what the money this building is for, and this is the money from Time Warner is supposed to be designated for improvements in the building, then we should do that. But I'd have to really know more about the contract.
I appreciate that, and that's fair. But at least you're telling us that if that money is designated for this place, then that's what it should be used for.
If that's what the deal is, that's what the agreement is.
I totally appreciate that. I'm losing my train of thought. It was something really important that I want to say that I didn't have it wrote down. I wanted to touch. I can't remember it. Anyway, we got about 4 minutes left on the program. Very important that you came on. I believe people know who you are. I'm certainly going to need you to come on again before the program, before the primary. And I would like the people to know, as I said, and let you know that this show will definitely be on our website. Both of these shows will be immediately on the website, although you can see this show on cable access TV on Wednesdays at 10:30 a.m. and you can see it Saturday nights. And this program will actually be airing this Saturday night at 10 p.m. But you can always go to the website and you can see both halves of this conversation with the mayoral candidate. Okay, so that would be very good. Now, I would say to you, I'm just going to use this term loosely, but I can because I have freedom of speech. Now, Mr. Mayor, the people of Buffalo are crying out. The people of Buffalo would say to you, help us. At least on the east side and the west side. Those people, those minorities say, are you going to help us? Are you truly going to help us? Or is this just some more lip service to accomplish a position that you really don't need? You got money, obviously, and you're not doing it for cash. So,
I can only say that my whole life has been dedicated to doing the right thing, helping people, being a part of making things better. I will say to the people on the east side and the west side, but not only them, I would say to people in South Buffalo and North Buffalo, okay. I will say to you, I do this, and I do this for one reason only. I honestly want to be a part of making Buffalo all that it can be, the very best that it can be. That's what motivates me. If I can't do that, I have no business in this. If I'm not doing it for those reasons, I shouldn't be here. If you want politics as usual, elect someone else. Don't elect me, because I don't want to do business as it's always been. As I said earlier, I owe nobody anything. Nobody owns me. I'm going to do what's right for the people. That will be my guiding principle.
I got to tell you, it's been an absolute pleasure. The time has just flown by. Still more questions that I could ask and I would ask, but we are totally out of time. Like I said, folks, this is Nate Boyd, the People's Advocate, where I voice the opinions and concerns of the people. I consider myself to be the voice of the people, and media is the avenue. So keep paying attention, keep watching the show. You know my motto. Pay attention, pay attention, pay attention.